See you
Okay.
later.
The world is facing significant social and ecological challenges. Belgium is no exception. Citizens, businesses, governments, and social purpose organizations should all contribute to a more sustainable future. We believe it's time for financiers to take on their responsibility and deliver for people and the planet. But if we want to finance change, we need to change finance. Impact finance is an investment or financing strategy that aims to accelerate the just and sustainable transformation of the real economy by proving evidence of its positive effects. It is not traditional philanthropy nor traditional investing because it's intentional, setting concrete impact targets, supporting innovative and sustainable solutions, and measuring clear impact goals. It adds impact as an equal factor to the risk return equation and provides solutions to unmet needs. The field of positive societal impact is broad, from people to planet, from nonprofit to market returns, from funding early stage ideas to financing mature companies. Different challenges and different risk return profiles need different types of capital. Therefore, multiple actors should be involved, both public and private, both institutional investors as well as family offices and individuals. That's why we founded Impact Finance Belgium. It's a not for profit organization with a clear purpose. Our mission is to shape and grow the impact finance landscape in Belgium within the wider European context. We believe Belgium should and can play a bigger role in the world of impact finance. Our goal is to mobilize more impact driven financing from 2.5% of assets under management today to double in 2025 and 10% in 2030. We also want to improve the effectiveness of impact driven finance by stimulating collaboration across the silos of financial players. By enabling, we initiate applied research and facilitate access to knowledge and expertise. We work with Belgian policymakers through advocacy. By inspiring, we raise awareness, improve communication, and highlight best practices. By connecting, we link impact financiers across silos and across Europe. By catalyzing, we organize pioneering programs in Belgium that worked well abroad. Impact Finance Belgium is turning finance into a force for good. Join us. The world is facing significant social and ecological challenges. Belgium is no exception. Citizens, businesses, governments, and social purpose organizations should all contribute to a more sustainable future. We believe it's time for financiers to take on their responsibility and deliver for people and the planet. But if we want to finance change, we need to change finance. Impact finance is an investment or financing strategy that aims to accelerate the just and sustainable transformation of the real economy by proving evidence of its positive effects. It is not traditional philanthropy nor traditional investing because it's intentional, setting concrete impact targets, supporting innovative and sustainable solutions, and measuring clear impact goals. It adds impact as an equal factor to the risk return equation and provides solutions to unmet needs. The field of positive societal impact is broad, from people to planet, from nonprofit to market returns, from funding early stage ideas to financing mature companies. Different challenges and different risk return profiles need different types of capital. Therefore, multiple actors should be involved, both public and private, both institutional investors as well as family offices and individuals. That's why we founded Impact Finance Belgium. It's a not-for-profit organization with a clear purpose. Our mission is to shape and grow the impact finance landscape in Belgium within the wider European context. We believe Belgium should and can play a bigger role in the world of impact finance. Our goal is to mobilize more impact-driven financing from 2.5% of assets under management today to double in 2025 and 10% in 2030. We also want to improve the effectiveness of impact-driven finance by stimulating collaboration across the silos of financial players. By enabling,
14
we initiate applied
plus 5.
research and facilitate access to knowledge and expertise. We
I want
work
to
with
get 20.
Belgian policymakers through advocacy by inspiring,
One more,
raise
one more.
awareness,
Come on.
improve communication, and highlight best practices. By connecting, we link impact financiers across silos and across Europe. By catalyzing, we organize pioneering programs in Belgium that worked well abroad. Impact Finance Belgium is turning finance into a force for good. Join us.
Our beautiful logo.
The world is facing.
Yeah. And then we open. Yeah, sorry, checking with our background here. Welcome, good afternoon to all people calling in for this third of our quartet of webinar sessions. Different methods to measure impacts is the theme of today. It's number 3 out of a series. I'll show that in a minute. Welcome to all calling in. We see a number of IFB clients, but also, or members, I should say, also a number of others from Belgium and outside. That's always good. We see a lot of names, not necessarily your pictures, but all are welcome. Today, just like previous times, we have 2 speakers, and one is, as more people are rolling in, one is our own Wendy Braken, the impact expert here in our team, who's prepared most of the work here. And each time we have a guest speaker, and today it's our pleasure to have Sophie Paquot with us, with the long title of Co-Director Impact Investing Program at the Vlerik Business School. What you may have noticed is that we had somebody from ISHEC here 2 months ago. We will have somebody from Solvay here in a month. We had Impact Europe last month. So it's great to have Vlerik here this time to contribute and promote a little bit of the work they are doing. On the next page, and that's for my colleague to show, this is the same as last time. So several of you will recognize this. You see the big overview of IFB members, a group of about 40 financiers in Belgium. In addition to financial parties who are members, we have a growing group of others with whom we collaborate, who are active in this space or otherwise important in this space, and that includes a group of people who work for different universities or business schools. So that is the big set. I won't get into all details because I'll be repeating myself a bit. On impactfinance.be, you can see more. On the next page, you can see a few of the highlights of our premise and our promise. In the middle, you see the core items of activities of IFB around publications, working groups, and events with and for our members. If anybody wants to know more about us, we will share our contact info also on the last page. Now, going towards our 2 speakers. On the next page, you see a core page that we published last November at the Belgian Impact Day on 8 November. And this was the basis or part of a document on ESG and impact and the different approaches. In our first of 4 webinars, we talked about the large overview. In the second webinar a month ago, we zoomed in on the bottom right, impact measurements and management. And in a way, today is a deepening of this, which is very exciting because it makes it very concrete. And that's where Sophie will also share a very concrete example. Next month, the last one, we'll go into the challenges, because it's always nice to talk about theory, but in practice, it's always a little bit harder. And that'll be on the schedule for next month, when we hope to see many of you back again. Wendy, I will pass it to you, but I think I forgot to mention that we are recording this session if the technique allows us to record it. Usually we try, and then for those who are not able to listen, they can listen back. And if you are not happy with recording, don't say anything, because nobody can see who called in, but they can certainly hear the speakers. Wendy, we first go to you.
Thanks, Frederik. So as you highlighted, I present you again the graph from publication. This gives you a first indication about the difference between ESG and impact, but it also highlights how important impact measurement and management is for impact investors. You also see there a nice differentiation between the quantitative, qualitative approaches, and also the valuation approach. What is a subsection of the quantitative approach? I first start with the quantitative approach. That's on the next slide. The quantitative approach is in fact an approach that measures data that can be translated into numbers or in figures. We have some examples, and we'll discuss the main examples that are used in the impact investing world. And we can go to the next slide to start with that, because then we give a first presentation of the 5 dimensions of impact management project. In fact, those 5 dimensions are related to 5 questions who are presented here, and also the questions that are related to it. It's a very easy approach to get an insight in the impact that you're creating with your intervention. It's a standardized approach, but it gives you very concrete information, typically really related to your intervention. It's one of the most accessible, so a lot of organizations, they start with this because it gives already a good overview of the impact that you realize. We can go to the next tool or next method, and that are the SDGs. I think they're very commonly known. The SDGs stands for Sustainable Development Goals. That is a worldwide impact framework composed about 70 main targets and 170 sub-targets. What maybe is less known is that you can use those SDGs in different ways. You can use it for impact measurement. And the first approach, what's often used, is that you link your intervention with one of the main targets. Those targets, you can link your intervention to that target. And if you looked at the target, they can also give you some secondary indicators for your intervention. So that's the first approach. A second approach is that you can have a look at the situation of the SDGs in your region or in your country, or there where you want to develop some activities, because they are measured on a lot of different levels, and they give already indications what are the most pressing needs, or what are underserved problems or underserved targets, and that based on that you can define a scope that you want to work on. If you want to know the current situation of Belgium, I invite you to go to the link below. There you can see how the SDGs are evolving here in Belgium. The third manner that you can use those SDGs, that is that you use SDGs for impact management, and that you use the thresholds and the targets that are in those indicators, and that you can use them for your own management of your own organization. So that there are 3 different methods that you can use. It's in fact a standardized impact framework. What makes it easier to have standardized indicators, and what facilitates comparison between activities. However, it gives you less concrete information on your own activities. A similar approach or a similar tool, or you can use a similar way, the next tool, and that are the IRIS Plus. And IRIS Plus. So IRIS Plus is in fact a free tool provided by GIN, so the Global Network for Impact Investors. It contains a catalog of a lot of indicators and a lot of metrics. The SDGs, for instance, they are included, the 70 targets and also the sub-targets, but it's also complemented with the 5 dimensions of impact, but also the GRI, the Global Reporting Initiatives, what is also an indicator framework that is often used in the corporate sector or within enterprises. So it gives you an overview of all those indicators. It gives you also evidence and best practices when it's available, and it helps you to identify some indicators for your particular sector. Again, that are standardized frameworks. So you have also standardized indicators, which can give you an insight what indicators can be useful for your particular project, but it doesn't go it's not concrete adapted to your particular intervention. Then I present you the next tool, that is the theory of change, and that is one of the most common used tools or methods in the impact investing world. The theory of change is in fact a visual presentation on your thinking about what you want to achieve and how you want to achieve. It will link your inputs, so your resources, human resources or financial resources, with your activities and how those activities lead to some results. That's presented in the outputs. It also gives you the possibility to link your activities with the results that you obtained within persons or in the society. And with that, that can be linked again with the impact that you want to obtain, with a broader goal that you want to obtain. With the possibility to connect your outcomes with your impact, it gives you ideas to reflect on how you can improve your activities. I know this is abstract, so I give you a concrete example. If you have, for instance, a training program, you will indicate in your input what are your trainers, or how many trainers do you have in your team. Your activities will indicate what is the training that you're providing, and your outputs will indicate how many participants are present to that training. Outcomes will give you an idea what activity realized within or with those participants. So they give you an indication, for instance, what is the knowledge that they gained, what are the skills that they acquired. Based on those info, you can link it to your broader impact goal. That can be, for instance, your contribution to decent work. So based on that reflection about how much outcomes did we obtain, a function of our broader goal, gives you an indication how you can reorganize maybe your activities, of how you can improve your activities. This model can be used from left to right or from right to left. So it's a continuous circle, so you can start, in fact, wherever you want. Maybe also I can also explain the link with the KPIs. KPIs are key performance indicators. In fact, they are main indicators. They are main indicators for an organization, how they can steer. And those KPIs are mostly formulated at the level of outputs. However, if you want to steer on the impact, that's very interesting to link them more to your outcomes and to present your KPIs in the forms of outcomes, or at least the combination of both. I can also add still that this is a standardized approach. It helps you to identify your specific approach or your specific activities or your specific impact to your intervention, but it can also help you to link with your broader goal, for instance, the SDGs, so you can link it also to standardized indicators that have an impact or that are used at a broader level. So that's the theory of change, and that were the most important tools that are used within the quantitative approach, and now we're going to the qualitative approach. The qualitative approach is in fact the approach, they collect also data, but they don't collect numerical data. They collect data as concept, opinion, experience, stories. Most methods that are applied are sending out of surveys of questionnaires where people are requested to respond on some questions, or impact stories where you deep dive in one particular case and that you obtain their information to know what impact that you created and how you can improve it. You have also more standardized approaches that are outcome mapping and harvesting and appreciative inquiry. In fact, they collect stories, they also collect stories, but within the outcome mapping, they are presented in a similar way as a theory of change, but it's a more like a narrative theory of change, not that visual as a classical theory of change. And it's often used to develop initiatives or to evaluate initiatives. Outcome harvesting is more that you obtain a lot of stories and that you can use that for evaluation of your intervention. Appreciative inquiry is also a very interesting method, and that focus really on social positive impact, because they're really asking your participants what was already good, what we developed, or what are the positive effects, and how we can even improve it more. I go not deeper into those methodologies. I've provided you with some links, so if you want to know more about it, do not hesitate to click through those links and to obtain more information. I can just tell you that they're not so much used in the impact investing world, but they're more used in the development and the social sector. And then we get with the third group of approaches, and that are the valuation approaches. Yeah, and valuation is a technique that in fact estimates the current value of an asset, an activity, or a company. In fact, they are developed to give an equal importance to social environmental impacts as financial impact. In fact, what you see that financial impact is mostly presented in euros or dollars. And what valuation approaches tries to do is to translate the social and environmental impact also in monetization, monetary values, so in euros or dollars, so that you can compare them between each other. They have another background, but at the end, it helps you to see that maybe you have a lot of financial impact, so that you have a lot of financial return, but that you have a very negative impact on environment. And with making those comparisons with the same basic amount, you can develop scenarios to to improve your impact in social, environmental, or financial level, or you can reduce your negative impact because it's situated where it is presented the most. So it helps you more to manage your impact and to create scenarios. You have, in fact, with the valuation approach, within the valuation approach, you have three main methods, and they're presented in the next slide. So you have the impact weighted account, you have the social return on investment, and the life cycle approach. The impact weighted accounts, in fact, is an approach where you have like your traditional financial account that is accompanied with the accounts of other stakeholders, like employees, customers, the environment, or the broader society. So in fact, they present 6 different capitals besides to each other, and so that you can see, okay, here I obtain in that aspect more impact at that level, but less impact maybe on another account. The social return on investment is a method to measure the social value of initiatives. The social value is, in fact, the value that is given by stakeholders. So it's really focused on what is appreciated and what is a possible and negative impact that you create with your stakeholders. It's often used more for social outcomes and social impact. Life cycle approach assess the potential environmental impacts of a product. And they look at the cost of a product starting from extracting the raw material till it's at the end of its life, in fact, when it's converted to waste or when it's recycled. Also there you have different approaches. So that are the main valuation methods that are used. And you already noticed that we came from measurement to more and more to management. And maybe therefore it's good to explain just the difference between those both topics. So impact measurement is more focused on presenting social and environmental outcomes. And this gives you a detailed understanding on what is going on, and it helps you to track progress of different activities, of different investments. Impact management, however, has another goal. It has a purpose that you can enhance the impact of your initiatives by setting concrete goals that you want to obtain, it gives you information for strategic decisions, and it gives you concrete guidelines how you can take actions to maximize your social or environmental impact. So that are the main difference between impact measurement and management. finalize this presentation with 3 main recommendations. It's a repetition of the previous session, but we find them so important so that we highlight them once more. The first one is that it's important that you know what you want to manage and which impact that you want to obtain. The difficulty with impact measurement and management is if you don't know very well your goal, that your measurement or your data can become your goal. I refer again to the example of the training. If you are measuring who are the participants of your training, it can be that you see there's a lot of more women or a lot of and less men in the groups of participants. That can be important for some programs, because if you say, okay, I'm reducing the barriers to a decent work, maybe this gender bias or that the difference in gender has to be considered. However, if it's more, I want to have as much as persons to have a decent job, that is not that important. And the risk is that if you have those data, that a lot of people start looking at, okay, to create more balances between those different groups, instead of how can I improve that even more people can have access to decent work. A second recommendation that we want to give is that it's more important to be pragmatic than being 100% correct. A lot of organizations want to cover 100% their impact, but at the end, it's 20% of the effort generates often already 80% of the impact that you want to know. For that additional 20%, you need a lot of effort, and mostly it doesn't change a lot. It won't change a lot your management. So being pragmatic, we always put forward. And then finally, I want to conclude with theory, impact measurement and management is a practice and not a theory. So you can develop very nice impact measurement and management frameworks, but at the end, it's the practice that will orient you what are the best practice to apply in a certain circumstances. So do not hesitate to start. You will learn continuously and you will get your masterpiece at the end of your journey. So this is the presentation that I want to give. I hope that I give you a quick overview of a very broad, very broad team. So I hope that you have an overview of the different methodologies and what can be the considerations to select for one of another. But Sophie will present you in the next slides a case study that can even help you more to make that selection.
Thank you, Wendy. I realize it's a lot of info, and I know you try to speak not too fast. I just wanted to say, like, we did manage to record it, so this will be shared. So all the slides you can view back later. At the bottom of this page, you still see my email address. For those who have questions, we'll be collecting them, because at the end we will have some time for questions. And I think it's great after the theoretical explanation to go to Sophie from Vlerik, who can give us a practical example. Over to you, Sophie. You're muted still. Voilà. We don't hear you correctly, Sophie. No, it's no, it's the Mickey Mouse voice I hear. We hear you, but it's not a good voice. Sophie, Yeah, the whole system.
Sophie, maybe it's good instead that you go out and enter again, and that maybe if people have already questions that they can pose them already.
Wendy, is this better? Yeah. Wendy is muted now. Okay. Then maybe we will go to first questions. I have here that came in by email. I have to say the chat is open too, although I see people chatting. Ah, voilà. You're back.
Okay.
Okay,
Great.
then we save questions for later. Good, good. We have Sophie back.
Okay, hello everybody. Sorry about the technical issues. So I'm Sophie Paquot from the Werk Business School. I'm the co-director of the first edition of the Impact Investing Program. I'm also a consultant and launched the Impact Management Practitioner around 6 years ago, and have been in the impact investing space since almost 15 years. So it's been quite a while. I'm going to present a little case study today. Going to talk about the Kilara Growth Fund and show you they have quite a sophisticated impact management approach, which ties in well with what Wendy explained earlier. And so I'll show you the different methodologies that they've used. So first slide. So Kilara Growth Fund is an Australian impact investing fund focused on scaling climate smart technologies and hardware solutions. So basically their main aim is really to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions and to address the drivers of emissions productions by improving energy efficiency, reducing material footprint, minimizing waste, etc. So they're going to target companies that really can contribute to these aims. Next slide, there. So the impact management approach they've used several steps. So they've used the SDGs, they've used IMP, the IRIS Plus core metric sets, the IMP 5 dimensions, SDG impact practice standards, Compass, and the IRIS Plus impact benchmarks. So that they went quite far, and most funds don't go that far, but I guess we'll get there. But so it's a very good example on, you know, the different approaches you can use and the different questions you can ask yourself. So we'll start by first, next slide. First, they started by setting their goals. So really they decided to, you know, define the outcomes that they really wanted out of their investments. And these outcomes, there's 3 outcomes: reducing climate impacts, changing production norms, and shifting markets. So they, in this image here, they were quite clear on what they wanted to achieve. So once they decided to select these goals, then the first step is really to align these goals towards the SDG objectives. So we can go to the next slide. So as Wendy said, the SDGs is really something that is globally accepted. I mean, most impact investors will use the Sustainable Development Goals and will align themselves to the Sustainable Development Goals. So here, Kilara has identified these SDGs, so they will align to SDG 13, climate action, SDG 12, responsible production and consumption, SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities, SDG 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure, SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, and finally SDG 7, affordable and clean energy. So this is quite useful because it allows them to sort of obviously identify global objectives, but also to find sort of their tribe as well. So it helps to, you know, for co-investment, it helps also to find resources for benchmarks. So really, this is quite an important first step, I would say. Within the SDGs, as Wendy explains, there's targets and indicators, which some investors choose to use as well. There has been, initially, the SDGs were really used for countries, and so the investment community often, well, we hear a lot that the indicators and the targets aren't specifically fit for investors. So that's why a lot of them go to IRIS Plus. Next slide. The second step is really to identify sort of their impact ambition. What ambition do they want to have? Do they want to be really impact first or just ESG? I mean, I think that's, a good question to ask yourself. And obviously it would be a dream to be impact first, but sometimes you have to be realistic and you have to be able to be a little bit lenient and maybe, choose investments that are not quite there yet, but then where you can see the potential for them to get there. So here in the case of Kilara Growth Fund, they decided to take their investments that are within the sections B or C. So here you have the impact management project developed the ABC norms. So the ABC norms, basically they classify their investments into 3 different sectors or 4 different sectors. So one sector is investment that causes harm. The second are investments, more responsible investing that act to avoid harm. The third are investments that benefit stakeholders. So we're approaching sort of impact investing. And finally, the last sector are investments that contribute to solutions. So really, we can fit in impact investing in there. So Kilara decided really to classify their investments within sector B or sector C. So benefiting stakeholders and contributing to solutions. This is also used quite a lot by the impact investing community. Next. So they decided also to use the IRIS Plus metrics. So the IRIS Plus metrics is a series of metrics that was initially, that is now, it's the GIN who own the IRIS Plus metrics. And so it's like a huge set of different types of metrics that fit into all the sustainable development goals. So you can see here on the side, you can see like, for example, decent jobs supported at climate conscious organizations. So this is what an IRIS Plus metric looks like. And you can see the number next to it. So people can put that in. So there's the IRIS Plus, they classify these metrics within the 5 dimensions of impact of the IMP. So Wendy was referring to that earlier. So to assess impact, usually you assess the impact within these 5 dimensions. So the what, the who, the how much, contribution, and the risk. In this case, Kilara only used 3 dimensions, the what, the who, and the how much in terms of scale of change and pace of change. It's usually when I do the work with clients, it's often difficult to find data for all 5 dimensions, although again, that would be ideal. So some funds decide only to go to use the what, the who, and the how much, which has been done here. So you can see a little bit how they structured it. Next slide. So I think we've missed a slide. I think there's no, okay. So once you've gathered all your data, once you've figured out what your metrics were, you really need to assess basically your impact performance. So here, they've put together this data, but once you have the data, what does it mean? I mean, you need to be able to compare that data, and that's quite important, because you can give all the numbers that you want, but it will only really mean something if you're able to compare it, and if you're able to show that actually your investment has better impact than another one. And so Kilara, the way they did that is they took the data and they normalized the data. So they're basically normalizing the data allows for like comparison. So here, for example, Kilara Growth Fund mitigates an average of 30 kilos of CO2 equivalent for every dollar of investee revenue. So that's one of, they have like three, they put together 3 metrics that they'll want to compare. So the 3 metrics will be every dollar of investee company revenue, every dollar of investee company enterprise value, and every dollar of equity. So they're able to assess how much CO2 emissions they're mitigating per dollar. So once they have this data, once they've normalized their data, they're then able to compare it. And then what they would use, and we could go to the next slide, they would use benchmarking. So in terms of benchmarking, Iris Plus has a few benchmarks that they're using and that people are feeding. The benchmarks aren't huge yet, and we're getting there. And this is, as everybody says, sort of the holy grail, is to be able to, to get these benchmarks. And there are a lot of organizations that are working on it, and 60 decibels as well has quite a lot of data, which they can use as benchmarks. And it's really useful, because then you're able to understand, if you're doing better or worse than other investments. So in this case, Kilara, in comparison to, they're doing better in terms of CO2 mitigations than 57 private equity investments and 152 venture stage investments. And again, this shows, this calculation shows, how credible they are, and that it is a good investment to get in. And if you do less well than the average, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's all bad, but it means that there's still a lot to learn. And that's the role, really, I would say, of the investor. Impact investors will assess all their investments, and then they'll see which ones perform well and which ones perform less well. And with the ones that perform sort of less well in terms of benchmarks, they're then able to help them and to give them information and data that will help them sort of improve that their impact performances. And that is really one of the big value adds of the impact investor, is really to be able to, help the investee improve its impact by showing where they stand in terms of these benchmarks. Great. So that would be the last slide. So I went, fairly high level, but I'm really happy to dive into things if you have more questions. But I thought it was a really good example, and maybe we can go back, Wendy, to the first slide. The first slide, yeah, this one, the impact, second one here. Oh, down. This one, yeah. This one, where you can really see the overview of everything we went through. The SDGs, the ABC, IRIS Plus core metrics, the 5 dimensions. We didn't go through the SDG impact standards, but the Compass methodology and the IRIS Plus impact benchmarks. So these are, I would say, quite credible frameworks and standards. Obviously, there are others And as you know, there's a whole alphabet soup out there of different frameworks and standards. But the ones that are there are used by a majority, I would say, of impact investors, even though there are others, and have proved quite useful. Although they still need to be, improved, and the whole sector is working on continuously improving them. So they're updated also on a regular basis. Great. Well, thank you so much. And I'm open for questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sophie, for this. I'm kind of impressed by this case. I've never seen a single party use so many different methods. So it should not be taken as a scare to others that this is the what you have to strive for. But I would almost see this as the menu, and you can determine where you want to start, and see what it's fitting. We had 2 more pages at the far end showing a little bit of lyric promotion.
Yeah.
I don't know, Sophie, if you want to spend 2 words on this.
Yeah. So we've launched the first edition of an impact investing program at Vlerick, which shows actually the interest of the sector and the need for the sector to be educated. So we're launching that. It will be launched in November. It's a 3-day program with networking activities. We've assembled really, I would say, a lot of very experienced actors who will be lecturing, not only in Belgium, but also in the rest of Europe. So there will be people from different parts of Europe, and I would say, very experienced impact investors. So it's really a great way to be exposed to the sector and to learn really how things are done.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So through the link, there's more info. I always have to say that IFB is a neutral party, but we work with everyone. Next month, we'll probably promote the course or initiative by another business school. On our last page, where we save that till the end, we have all our contact info, and the promotion of that 4th webinar on the 25th of June. So that's Tuesday lunchtime. I think the first time we had to move to a Tuesday, but the same setup. And then Hugues Pirot will be our guest speaker. I think I saw Hugues show up in the long list of names, with a link to another academic organization. In terms of questions, after all the input from Wendy and the input from Sophie, I received a number of questions. I just want to say the chat can be used for this as well. Sorry, I'm opening the chat now, and the chat was about old news. If you have any questions, you can also use the chat, but frederick@impactfinance.be is my email address, which a few people also have used. One of the questions that came out, that was the first question that came up, is if you look, and in that sense, Sophie, you ended with a good page with the 6 or 7 different methods that Kilara was using. Is there any trend or tendency to merge all these, in a way, different languages for people to speak a little bit more of the same language? Is there anything going on that may make it easier as well for all the practitioners in the fields that are in process of determining what to use with SFDR and CSRD coming up? Is there anything you can say about this?
Yeah. So the different methodologies that are shown are all interlinked. So once you dive into it, you'll understand that all these methods actually work together or are linked together. So obviously, I've shown 8 different methodologies, but it's quite easy to do that, all in one. So they're all very interlinked. And although in the beginning there were lots of different standards, different frameworks, today we're really working towards finding common ground. And although we're not completely there yet, they are starting to have really similarities, and there's a lot of mergers also between different frameworks. So yeah, it's becoming clearer today. It's not complete. We're not completely there yet, but it is becoming clearer, and people really understand the notion that we need to be able to have the same language, and so that's why they're mergers and they're all working together today.
I can maybe also complement, Frederik, that if you start, what I tried to explain also, if you start with the 5 dimensions of impact, if you start with that, then it's very easy to develop your theory of change, because it gives you already a lot of input. And with the theory of change, at the end, your impact, your final goals, mostly they are linked also to the SDGs. So there's again, it's not very strange that that tool is most used, because you can really interlink general frameworks with methodologies that are standardized, and even get very concrete input for your own activity or your own intervention.
Yeah.
Okay, and for those who think this is a new term to them, our webinar of a month ago delved deeper into this, and on our website you can listen back to hear more if you missed that. On the frameworks, there was a different question, and then after that I'll come to the chat. But there was a different question about the IMM with a reference to the RISE fund in the US. What are the differences between this IMM and other methods, and why wasn't IMM as popular as other methods? Does that ring a bell for either of you? The IMM?
What's getting me a little bit confused is that IMM stands in fact for impact measurement and management,
Yeah.
and that all the different methods that we explained today are falling in that term. So RISE is also probably using one of those methods that we presented here, but it's just that, and that's why I give you the difference between measurement and management. Some tools are easier to help you with measurement, to get you an overview of what you're obtaining, while others are more useful to help you with the management, so to improve your activities. So, and normally RACE, they also use some of those methodologies that we presented, I suppose.
Okay.
Maybe if I can comment on that as well, is that I think what was probably said is that they didn't like maybe just doing impact measurement. And in the beginning, we really talked about impact measurement, but not about impact management. And then we realized that measuring the impact only wasn't really that useful. You really have to be able to manage it also. So what do you do with everything that you've measured? And so I think there's been an evolution. We've started by doing just impact measurement. And today we don't talk about impact measurement only, we talk about impact measurement and management, because the management part is where we really assess the impact performance. We talk about strategy. So that's really the most important part.
Okay, as you stressed the measurement part, sorry, I'm slipping in another question that came in. Somebody wrote, not all impact is easy to measure, with a reference to examples of well-being, security, engagement. How do you measure this, or what do you advise to those who are interested in these topics?
So it's true that not all impact is easy to measure, and as Wendy was saying earlier, it's not. You can't expect things to be perfect, but there are things that you're always able to measure. For example, one example, and which goes cross-sector, that I always use, is data quality. So you're able to assess the data quality of your investment, and if you have high quality, then you can be sure that that's a mark of quality of the impact of your investment, if you're able to assemble a good quality of data. Now, you were also saying, Wendy, you were also talking about quantitative and qualitative data. So the quantitative data obviously is easy to assemble. The qualitative one is a little different, but it's quite important into impact. So I can give you an example of qualitative data is, the importance of the change for the stakeholder. So that is a qualitative metric. And so you get sort of that sort of data through surveys. And so again, you can't it's difficult to have like exact numbers for qualitative data, but you do get a really good sense of what the stakeholder thinks through these different types of surveys. So I would say that there are ways to, you know, by very well done surveys to assess probably impact that is difficult to that is difficult, but there are ways to do it.
And maybe also will complement on that, that what often happens is that you do an activity and that you really want to measure directly your impact. But there also the theory of change can help you to see that you have also intermediate outcomes. So you do an activity and you have a certain effect that you cause in the society or with persons. And that is far easier to measure, because well-being, people will say, okay, I have more self-confidence, or well-being can be, I feel better, so I have a most positive feeling. So those things are easier to measure than really the well-being. But if you, and the theory of change helps you just to make that connection. So if you know, okay, I'm doing some activities to promote well-being and I have those outcomes, with linking those outcomes with that impact, you can have an idea how you can manage your impact, your activities better to obtain larger impact. I hope this is clear, but it's really, I see that a lot of people are always talking about impact measurement, and they're looking really for how I can measure the impact that I have towards the Sustainable Development Goals, for instance. That's impossible to do, but you can link it to your outcomes, and that are the direct effects of your activities. Yeah. And that you can mostly link to your the general impacts.
I'm going to try to group a few questions here. And one clarification, the person who asked about IMM, in her case, it was the impact multiple of money.
Okay.
Wow.
It's not a term I know, but is it something either of you knows more about? Apparently used by the RISE funds and not very popular. No, it doesn't ring a bell.
It doesn't sound about.
IMM in this case is the impact multiple of money. To put a number on of dollars on each investment.
And that is more linked to the valuation approaches, in fact, that I explained it.
Yeah, so I wanted to make that pitch. There are different initiatives now using different words, whether it's monetization or valorization or valuization of money. And it's actually one of the promotions I wanted to make, the Impact House. So that's our office here. We'll have a speaker on Monday, 17 June. Werner Schouten, Dutch guy from the Impact Economy Foundation, will be talking about the monetary valuation of impact. It's one of the initiatives, but it's a big one with a link to the Harvard Business School, and they have quite some examples of financiers that they've already helped. This is quite a bit under construction, but developing rapidly. So I think it's really interesting to keep an eye on this, and most practitioners really think that the next year or two will be a breakthrough in this field.
And maybe I can just add why it's not so popular most of the time. It's because a lot of people feel resistance that they translate social outcomes or that they give them a financial value, also environmental. But I want to stress again upon what I said before, that it's not so much about how much the value that you give it, or it's 5 of 10. It's more of the range of value that you can have on with your outcomes. That is more important, because it's a method to manage your impact. So then you have to put it in figures, and they use it now in dollars or euros, and that's often seems like, okay, there is a monetary value and a financial value, and that people are having problems with that. But in fact, it is putting it in figures that are the same figures as the financial levels. So if it's put in apples or in peers, it can also be done, but it's just that you have like the big chunk where is the most impact created or less impact, and that is the importance of that methodology.
Okay, I want to go. Yeah, Sophie, quickly, keep it short, because I want to cover 2 more questions.
You were saying it's a concept that is going to scale. It's still early days, but a lot of the people in the sector are looking into this, and so it's definitely a space to watch. It's something that I'm going to be working on as well, and that will evolve quite a lot in the next few years, because there's a lot of people behind it. So definitely an interesting and important topic.
Yeah, I have two questions in my notes, but they're similar to what comes up here about the financial products. The question Jonathan asked here is about Kelara specifically. So Sophie, I don't know if you can take that one about VC or more than private equity. Do you have any view on this, on sort of types of financing used?
The types of financing used, I think that it's more early stage investments. I really focused on the impact management part of things, so I would have to look back into it. But I do believe it's more early stage investments.
Okay, I can only chip in there that we see all examples, and it depends a bit what part of the market you're active in, whether it's more VC, whether it's more private equity, or more sort of regular products, down to just regular debt financing. And not all of this always comes out in impact debates. Quite a few think it's only about sort of new high-risk ventures, but a lot of the more regular incumbent existing, even large companies are ever more looking at impact, and where the financing products that they attract are ever more regular equity and debts and guarantees as well. Sophie, as you mentioned early stage, there was a question that actually already came before we even started about how to measure the impact of early stage ventures, because quite often there's nothing in place yet. Can you spend a word on that? And then the last question I wanted to cover was the one linked to what's the last in the I want to say the show notes, but it's in the chat. And then I hope we can conclude at 1 o'clock sharp.
So I think for the early stage ventures, it's definitely useful to start implementing an impact management process. You can start really small and just starting to do a few impact metrics, but it's good to implement the processes from the beginning, so early stage. And if you probably need someone in the team to be trained, so to have an understanding of what it is. But it's definitely worth it in the long run, to attract investors, and also even for the consumers to have a good understanding of the impact that you'll have at the early stage, but also later on. Now, what I can add as well is that it may be quite tricky from the very beginning, because oftentimes the investees don't have the data yet, so the data is not available, and so there's not much that you can do. But by implementing processes to gather that data from the beginning, I think it will be quite useful in the long end.
Okay, and then maybe the last one, maybe one of the challenges that could come back next month. How do you get the proper data from your investee companies? Any golden tips on this?
I think it's already. I think a lot of people are really hesitating on impact measurement and management, but if we put measurement in combination with management, there's already a lot more motivation to obtain those data that are needed. And if you get your goal very clear, very practical, then it's easier to define the real data. And if you see the link with that impact that you want to create, that's also motivating to collect more data, I think. Quick response to it, but
yeah, I think it's also about making it easy for the investees. So obviously it has to be encouraged by the investor. That's where it starts. So encouragement from the investor, but also making it easy for them. And oftentimes investees are frustrated because they get different surveys from different investors, and then they lose so much time in it. And that's what I hear time and time again. So it's really about that part, or maybe, combining efforts with other investors and just making it easy for them to do it and helping them out.
Not only easy, also fun. And here I'm chipping in my many years of development backgrounds in developing countries. They were often amazed how much impact they had, and they did not realize because they never focused or added up all the impact they had. So just asking your clients really opened up a lot of positive stories and excitement, and sometimes also the re-steering of their business models to have even more impact, and at the end of the day, an even better business case. So showing that it's fun and that it can reinforce your business case and help you avoid negative issues is really a strong story. And I hope that that link will be made in the CSRD and SFDR, all the upcoming regulation as well. My clock indicates 1300 hours. I already did my pitches for the next webinar at the end of June, 25 June. You can see more on our website with Hugues Pirot. We already promoted Sophie and your course at the end of the year, and I promoted the Impact Monday coming up on 17 June. That's online, and at least 2 out of 3 are for free. And with Sophie, you may have to negotiate on the rates. But thanks to all listening in, calling in. On our last page, we had contact info, but hello@Impact Finance can always be used for any questions and follow up. And we hope to see you again. Thanks again to all. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Frederick and Wendy.
You too, Sophie.
Yeah. I can't hear you. I think you're on mute. Yeah, you're on mute, Frederick. Yeah.
You were a challenge to us, your IT systems.
But you're also.
It was. I don't think it was on my side. The
Maybe it
camera
was on our side, but it's I don't know.
got cut up. I was there. I didn't do anything, and when you started speaking, Wendy, my camera got kicked out.
Okay,
So
you should have seen the eyes across the table here, like, oh my gosh, speaker overboard.
But I thought once I was put as a presenter, that the camera would get back on. So I wasn't panicked. I thought, okay, they just decided to. I thought it was.
No, we did the loops here. Like, what's going on? Where is she?
Yeah.
And I hope Wendy wouldn't notice too much, but you kept going, Wendy. Maybe you missed some of this.
Yeah, but you're also, Stephen came entered, everything fold. Yeah, it was like, yeah. And then she put a chat. I was really like, what is it flickering all the time? So it's I hope that I was not too fast, but I was really like, what's happening here? I have to talk about something and I don't know. Yeah, there is no quietness.
You were good. We didn't see anything on your side. You just continued.
Yeah. But there was air falling. There was people passing. And it was like, okay, okay, still something more, and then I stop. But okay.
Yeah.
Good. But I counted, I think 27, which
and
included
even there was a moment with 32,
some of us. Yeah, so 30 all in, but that included the whole team here. But still, I'm very happy with the show up. And I hope we could promote all the different things. Of course, I wanted to promote the next time because I saw you calling in. And Sophie, I really liked your example. I'm really impressed by these Kilara people.
Yeah, they are very impressive. It's while I was doing some research. I mean,
and I have to go here. No, I'm kicked out.
Oh, you're being kicked out. We'll see you upstairs in a minute.
Yeah.
They went quite far, but I think it's the consultants behind who wanted to really to make it as an example. And in Australia, they're doing quite some. There's a group there that is quite advanced in terms of. And the impact investing in Australia is there's a they're doing good work there. Yeah.
Okay, because I have to think in the GSG group, there's always, what's his name from New Zealand? There's one guy from New Zealand. I don't recall Australia actually calling in, but he always talks about like, oh, we're new and young and small, and so very careful. But maybe there's good stuff happening.
Yeah. On the private side, I don't know if in terms of government, and I don't know if that they're involved, but there's a few private investors there who who go quite deep. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we see 3 versions of Wendy. So now you see a part of our room here. Ah, no, only when you come back, the backgrounds. When you walk away, we lose your backgrounds. Yeah, that's okay.
I was
No,
very
but nice. And
On the impact stack.
so you Frederik
I-
Madri, you don't.
It's,
I can change maybe my view.
Frederik Madri. Thanks for the presentation. It was really interesting.
One of the colleagues here. Up. There you are. You can see Sophie.
Hi, great. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for.
I never saw that impact stack. That's a really interesting slide.
The link.
No, that impact.
Or that whole stack.
stack.
Yeah.
Who developed that?
So as it says underneath, it's it's
Put the link in.
it's underneath, so you can.
John Treadgold.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not an organization. It's the person who developed it.
He's a consultant, but he has a whole consultancy
Okay.
behind him. Yeah. So no, I was very happy to contribute, and hopefully it was helpful. And if you would hear any interest for the Vlerik program, please do send people my way. I know you're not allowed to promote too much.
No, all I can do is promote everybody and everything that we know. So that's why I'm happy to promote your work, especially if I can mention at least one other, because that shows how neutral we are. So I'm very happy that Hugo is coming with something, and hopefully more.
We can put it in our newsletter again.
I think it is or was in our newsletter. Vlerik, or last month already, we put it in our newsletter, right? Yeah. So and Hugo didn't,
I've spoken to a few of your members who were interested, and who said, "Oh, you should ask if to promote, and we can talk to." And I said, obviously, that I was, discussing, but I think that it could be of interest with others, obviously. But it's we've been working on it since a while, and I think it could be interesting. Yeah.
No, so our newsletter goes out to, I don't know how many, 1400s, 1200s, 1200s, like a lot of people. And so it was it's always the last days of the month. So tomorrow, the next one will go out, but it was the one of the end of April that also mentioned this one. A very, very brief explanation and link, because all the info had just been shared by David back in the day. It was in there. I don't think it's on our website. I don't think we do this yet, but it's in our newsletter. It's the easy way, where we also share member news and other items. Yeah, so we'll see. Okay, good. And I was happy with the questions, because some of them really overlapped with what I had on paper. So then I had to see, and at the end it was like, whoa, they kept coming in, but it was just okay. Yeah. So that's nice.
Yeah, I know, it's great. Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to do it, and we'll be in
Thank you for all your help. Wendy looks very relieved.
It was
Well done, Wendy.
50 minutes. I thought, really, I'm leaving. Oh, yeah, it's too much is going on. Okay.
And this is Donna in the team, so we'll see.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Stay in touch. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Bye.